It is the last session of our talk on Economic Chat Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman for today. So we are talking nuclear power, and the question remains, like, why can Namibia not start its own nuclear plant?
The short answer is it can.
It can.
The long answer, the big problem is, who are we going to sell the electricity to? Even if you use modern technologies like the Pebble Bed reactor, where you have more control over the whole process, and you can generate energy in smaller quantities, there's still something that is called baseload. Baseload is basically that threshold below which any power plant cannot function. Whether it's a coal-fired power plant, the conventional stuff, whether it's old technology, nuclear, doesn't matter what you use to generate the electricity. If it is something that is not dependent on wind or sunshine, meaning it's something that runs 24/7, right? through the day and through the night, you can't go below baseload. The facility is designed to generate baseload at all times, but then it is also designed to increase the output for so-called peak loads. And it's very well known amongst electrical engineers when the peak times are, and it's also very simple. It's early in the morning before people go to work, and it's late in the afternoon or early evening when people come back home from work, and when they cook and when they watch TV and that sort of thing.
Yes.
You can imagine there are 5 or 6 of these big sport fields in Windhoek. When all of them switch on their lights for the sportsmen who are playing there, remember it's dark. So, and those lights are very big and very bright.
Very bright.
You can imagine what sort of power it pulls. So any power facility has to be able to make provision for peak load, because peak load is in a certain sense unpredictable or not fully predictable. There's an element of unpredictability in it, and if the demand on the system or on the grid exceeds a certain limit and the peak load design doesn't make provision for that, the whole thing shuts down. Then you get power outages, and you also don't want that. So you've got two risks in the generation side, and the one is that you can't at the facility itself where you generate electricity, you can't go below a certain baseload factor, and on the demand side where the electricity is used, you can't exceed a peak load threshold. Otherwise you blow up the whole thing. Well, it's not that dramatic. There are many safety features
what I imagine right now, but okay.
There are many safety features in it. A grid doesn't collapse all at once in one go. It collapses systematically, and it's designed to collapse in phases, so that it can reduce the demand on the system, so that it can prevent overload in the nuclear facility itself. So it's a very safe system. It's been remember, this technology has been around for almost 100 years. It's a proven technology. It's a refined technology. We can build a power station. The question is, the two questions is, the one is the baseload. What size facility do we put up? And the rule of thumb is, the bigger, the cheaper your electricity. So it means that you have to go big. But if you want to go big, the baseload cannot just sit there. It has to be used. Electricity is something in flux. It must flow all the time, So it means that you have to connect to the market, where the consumers are. When you and I want to switch on a kettle and boil water. So you need a distribution network. So that is not well developed in Namibia. We will have to invest just as much money that we will have to invest in the enrichment facility as in the generation facility, also on the distribution side. And it is not just from Swakopmund or Luderitz to Windhoek. By the way, the nuclear facility has to be at the sea. Why? It needs lots of water. Why? to keep it cool.
Yes.
Otherwise, it gets too hot, you know.
Yeah.
So the market is not Namibia. The market is 1,000 and 2,000 kilometers away. So the distribution part also becomes very expensive. And we have installed some lines to South Africa and small lines to Botswana and to the north and to the Caprivi and so on, but not nearly enough. We can't, even if there's a good facility in somewhere along the coast, we can't provide the southern third of Angola. We can't send electricity, any meaningful amount, to Zambia. If we want to send it to Zimbabwe, you will not believe it, it first has to go to South Africa. And then to Zimbabwe. So on the distribution side, reaching the market that merits the investment, there are also huge obstacles that we will have to overcome and huge financing requirements for which we are not ready.
Well, that's unfortunate, but of course, like they say, nothing is impossible. So we're going to end on that note, and thank you so much for tuning in and keeping it locked to the Power Station Energy 100. Thank you to you, Mr. Daniel Steinman.